My 36M wife, 34F, keeps tying my boots after I've told her to keep her hands off of them. I tried to teach her a lesson and really hurt her feelings. Yes, I know the title is bizarre and I can't believe I'm actually writing this. My wife is a neat freak. Always has been. She throws notes on my desk out assuming they're garbage. My belongings get rearranged to the point where it takes me hours to find them. It's something I've come to accept. I'm not happy about it, but we have a pretty happy marriage on the whole. I am a volunteer EMT, and I keep my boots unlaced up against the wall next to my clothes hamper so that I can throw them on along with my uniform if a call comes in during the middle of the night. Well, my wife has taken to tying the bootlaces when she sees them untied. Not only does she tie them, but she tightens them and double knots them to the point where I need to undo the knot, open up the boots, and let a little slack out to fit my feet into them. I ignored it the first 2 times, but the 3rd time she did it, I made it a point to bring up to her the next day. I very calmly said, "Hun, I appreciate that you want everything neat, but please do not touch my boots in the future. Time is of the essence when I'm going on a call, and at 2 in the morning, I don't have the time to unlace them and open them up. It's not just a minor inconvenience, it's people's lives, so I would appreciate it if you left them alone." She rolled her eyes, said I was being dramatic, and that she wouldn't help me out by keeping my things neat in the future. Well, she never stopped. No matter how many times I've asked her, told her, begged her, she just laughs and says, "Well, you know how I am." The other night, a page went out for a CPR in progress. I went to throw my boots on, and they were, once again, tightened beyond recognition. So I'm sitting there on the edge of the bed, cursing, trying to get my boots open and fumbling due to the stress of the situation. My wife opened her eyes, groggily looked at me and asked, "Don't you need to go on that call?" I know I was in the wrong here, and I regret it. I slammed the boot into the ground and yelled, "Yes, I do! I would have been out the door 5 minutes ago, except some stupid mother trucker effed with my goddamn boots again." My wife got up without another word, walked into the bathroom and slammed the door. I got my boots open and went on the call. By the time we arrived, the police had gotten her back, so I didn't have to do CPR, but I was sweating and shaking thinking my delay could have cost a life. I got home and my wife wasn't talking to me. She ignored me the entire day until we finally sat down and talked. She said I'd scared her with how angry I got, that she thought I was going to hit her, and she didn't know I was capable of getting so angry. Note: I have never raised a hand to her, nor have I ever yelled at her before. I am absolutely not a violent person in any way, shape, or form. I apologized for yelling at her and acknowledged that I hadn't meant to snap at her. I was frustrated with the situation as I needed to get to the person in need of CPR as soon as possible, and it was a delay that didn't need to happen. I, once again, pleaded with her not to touch my boots because lives were literally on the line. She told me that if I was going to overreact and make her afraid, then she would never touch my boots again because she didn't want to live like that. Last night, before I got into bed, I had a sinking feeling, so I went over and checked my boots. I was very disappointed to find them tightened up again. So I decided to show her how it felt. I went over to her closet and pulled out her running shoes. I unlaced the shoelaces on both of them, removed them from the shoes completely, curled them each into a little coil, put them inside the shoes, and put them back. I then went to sleep. At 6:15, I was woken up by my wife screaming, "How could you? Why would you do this?" holding up both laceless shoes with tears in her eyes. My wife likes to go for an early morning run, and I knew she would want to get out the door as soon as possible. I smiled and said, "You know how I am. I just like things neat." She continued sobbing and walked out of the room. So, by the time she was all laced up again, it was raining, so she missed out on her run. I actually feel pretty terrible about that because I really only wanted to delay her, not ruin her plans completely. At this point, she's alternating between crying that I went out of my way to hurt her and ignoring my presence. I acknowledge that what I've done has been pretty childish and not at all constructive. I just don't know what to do. She said, through tears, "You admitted you were totally in the wrong for yelling at me, and then you turned around and took it out on me in a different way. What is wrong with you? The problem is, to her, an apology means taking on 100% of the fault. When I apologized for blowing up, she took that to mean she was 100% in the right and that my feelings were completely unjustified. So at this point, I haven't apologized for ruining her run because she'll take that to mean that she wasn't wrong to touch my boots. I've tried to have these discussions, but it's in one ear and out the other. We have such a good relationship otherwise, but I feel like this issue has reached a tipping point and it's going to continue to result in arguments until we resolve it. How do I make things right with my wife while still letting her know that I won't tolerate her disrespecting my property anymore? Edit. Wow, this blew up. I went through comments for 6 hours last night and I still have one. 8K to get through. I promise you I am reading every one of your comments and appreciate the advice. A couple things to address points that keep getting brought up. My wife has never been diagnosed as having OCD. As an EMT, I'm very careful about labeling someone as having a disorder as I don't have the proper qualifications to make that diagnosis. I do agree that it's time for her to see somebody, get a proper diagnosis, and address these issues. My boots lace up in the front and zipper on the side. They're not a full unzip, but rather an unzip to open them up a bit. The way my wife is tying them makes them impossible to get on even with the zipper down. They're weatherproof and great for standing on rough terrain or the highway after accidents. They're only about a year old and were actually a gift from my wife. I've not considered Velcro before. I'm a bit hesitant to do that as I don't know that they wouldn't catch on things or wear out quicker. I've tucked the laces in, but she still tied them up. This is a bit of compulsive behavior on my part. I don't leave my boots in the garage because my mother was a smoker growing up and that's where she would smoke. So I would end up with ashes in my shoes and having them reek of tobacco after. So I developed a habit of wearing them into my home. Also, if I leave them there, they're likely to get moved someplace safe, where it will take me even longer to find them. Putting the boots in the closet, she found them and tied them. Putting them under the bed or out of sight, they were found, tied, and moved to the closet. I honestly believe that a footlocker or any other kind of box would get moved to where I would have to wake her up to find it. If it's locked, then my keys are likely to go missing. For some reason, sitting on my dresser is not appropriate, but in the pocket of a jacket downstairs in the closet is. I am likely going to start putting my boots in the car, though I had to laugh at the people suggesting decoy boots. As much as it may seem like it, I'm not living in a spy versus spy cartoon. I am a volunteer EMT. We respond from home. We don't have sleeping quarters, and I work the overnight shift, so I sleep during my shift, get out of bed when a call comes in, drive to the building, and take the ambulance to the scene. This is typical of volunteer organizations. Paid EMS is more likely to have sleeping quarters or even require EMTs to be in the truck throughout their shift. Community-based EMS is more likely to take 911 calls and respond to emergencies whether paid or volunteer. Private EMS is more likely to take transport requests such as to from dialysis or chemotherapy, as well as hospital to nursing facility discharges. To those who have told me that I don't have the right to use the word life-saving, on my dress uniform I have pins for 3 defibrillator saves and 4 for CPR saves. I've crawled into a car wreck to open someone's airway and bag them until we could get them out. While transporting a patient, I recognized signs of internal injury and ordered we divert to a trauma center where he was put directly into emergency surgery that saved his life. Did I do these things entirely by myself? No, of course not. I would never claim that I was the sole reason someone lived. However, I am, at my very basest level, a vital link in the chain or survival. So, while I can't claim complete credit for any of the things I've done, I would certainly put a lot of blame on myself if someone didn't live because of something I failed to do. I have a full-time job that I work 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, outside of EMS. That is why I volunteer on the night shift. My wife works as a payroll manager for a mid-sized office. I earn about $10,000 a year more than her. We've been married for 2 years. While I lived on my own before we were married, she didn't move into the apartment until we got engaged. So I think to her, that was my place, not ours, and she didn't really touch my things. I was with another EMS organization until we moved to a new town after our engagement. When we bought the house, I joined the local volunteer squad as an EMT. My wife regards my job as part of my identity, while she sees the EMS as something I volunteer to do. She would say, "This is my husband, he is job title," not "This is my husband, he is an EMT." Thank you for all the awards on this post. You're all very kind. I appreciate so much that you took the time out of your day to acknowledge things and want to help me. TLDR. Wife keeps tightening my boots when I'm not wearing them, delaying me on ambulance calls. I finally had enough, and she's calling my response abuse.
Tell your wife that this interference with your gear could crash your marriage and facilitate a death. And is she good with that, or will she work on herself?
She thinks I'm being dramatic when I refer to life-saving. That what I do is more transporting boo-boos.
She's got serious issues. Who in their right mind would do this? Then deflect it by making him feel bad for yelling. What in the actual fuck? How this guy has a happy marriage is beyond me. She needs help. That's just wrong.
I'm really in favor of a psychological wake-up call. I arrived late because someone effed up my laces, and an 8-year-old died. A 4th grader effing died. They would still be alive if we had made it in time, so just imagine the pain of the mother and father since their child is dead.
He's already done this. She said she understood and agreed, then did it again. When he tried to bring it up after that, she mocked him.
Dude, I'm sorry. Because she's your wife and I do not intend to offend or insult her or you in any way for saying this, but I have no idea why you're taking yourself on a guilt trip. It is not funny if someone loses a life because of her obsession with neatness, but clearly she seems to shrug it off with a laugh. She may be playing the victim here, but it's actually you who is being victimized, and you're not in the wrong. She may be a really nice person overall, but her failure to respect how you want your things to be is simply unacceptable. I can understand compromises, but just because you apologize because you feel bad for venting out on her, she's using that to play the victim and is preying on your guilt. The nicest people with the best of intentions can do horrible things, thinking they are in the right. You need to lay down the law and make her realize she needs to compromise on her obsession to an extent too. It has to be a two-way street.
It also rubs me the wrong way that she, assuming this is an accurate account, continually says things like, "Well, I'll just never help you again," or, "Well, I'll never do anything nice for you anymore," etc. It seems like she's making it hard as hell for him to state clear boundaries and comes off almost as gaslighting. She's not helping, she's hurting, and she's trying to make him feel bad for not being okay with what she's doing. I don't know, feels wrong to me.
I really hope you're exaggerating or paraphrasing because that's just insane. Does she not understand the concept of an ambulance or a medical emergency? Are there other mental health issues at play? Because black and white thinking and the compulsive behaviors like the ones you're describing are pretty concerning. Add in the fact that she seems totally divorced from reality, and I think your only option is therapy.
This actually has all the makings of a really good screenplay. Spice it up a bit more by having that woman die on the CPR call. The laces acts as a metaphor for the tensions in their relationship and her anxieties. The neat bow at the top is how we dress it up to appear happy to the people around us.
Lol. So wait, she's the one who had a hissy fit after having her shoelaces twisted but had the gall to call you dramatic? Skipping around the block is far less important than transporting boo-boos. Next time don't apologize because she was the one in the wrong. Catering to her irrational feelings just allows her to rug sweep her behaviors.
I'm a nurse, and I'm terrified to talk to EMTs. During a presentation, someone asked them what's the worst call they've been on, and I wish they had never asked them because I can't get their answer out of my head. Your wife is an a-hole, and she needs to get over herself ASAP.
Then, this is deliberate. She may be tying your boots out of compulsive behavior, or she may not be, but either way, she is intentionally doing it. This is extremely childish behavior and should be treated as such. You need not apologize or make it right, but as many have suggested, sit her down and tell her that this is an issue that jeopardizes your job, your relationship, and more importantly, human lives. If that's not something that she can understand and she's not willing to make appropriate changes, then I don't know if she's worth sticking with. That would then show she has no respect for you or your work, and you shouldn't just accept that kind of treatment, especially from your wife. Time for her to get a reality check, OP.
This is so messed up. My dad is a doctor and used to be on call a lot when I was a kid. Whenever he got called in, we all did our best to support him by staying out of the way so he could get out of the door as fast as possible. It was just common sense that some things were not to be altered with or moved around without permission, e.g. his shoes, car keys, pagers etc. Whether you're a nurse, doctor, an EMT etc. on call, it's a big sacrifice and a big deal. For your wife to even suggest that all you do is kiss blue boobs is so disrespectful and stupid. She needs to learn empathy and be supportive instead of mocking someone who is saving lives.
As someone who witnessed her mother have a heart attack when I was 6 while home alone. If it wasn't for the quickness of the EMT, my mother would be dead right now. I am sorry, but it is extremely disrespectful for your wife to disrespect your job, and the hardest line of work it entails and diminishes it to mere boo-boos. Honestly, I don't know what we as a society would do without you guys. Certainly, I know I owe you guys for saving my mother's life. That, and she clearly does not respect your boundaries and places her own non-essential needs on top of your own essential needs.
Ask your wife if she got hit on her morning run. How would she like it if her doctor was late cause his wife tied his shoes?
Don't bother making things right. She was the one who started making everything wrong in the first place. You apologized for yelling, and that was the only apology you owed her. For any of it, this person is insane and manipulative. This is not funny. One day she will kill a person by proxy if you let her. Sit down with her and tell her very firmly that your boots are off limits. If she touches them again, you and your boots will start sleeping in another room so that no one dies, because she won't follow the one simple request you've made of her. And you will also be insisting on marriage counseling at that point, because you cannot and will not stay in a marriage where your partner ignores your wishes over and over again.